Peace. How's it going, Patrick? Conservative Rap, and welcome. Welcome to where we cover and cut through the noise to bring you the latest developments. All right, so there were all these delay tactics about the government shutdown. That's lost steam. Low-level cases are being put to the judicial system to test them. Meanwhile, Trump is no longer seen as a disruptor, but as a peacemaker. It's awesome. You see tensions rising abroad and being quelled consistently by the one and only DJT. And despite these kind of concepts about World War III and a global reset, there's a narrative that's faltering and being reset. We're seeing the tide shifting and peace, not chaos, taking center stage. Let's take a quick look. Some happenings here, and we'll get straight into it. I'm going to start with the man himself on truth. If Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we'll have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And this is brilliant because after a peace deal, not only does the Free Palestine kind of narrative fall apart, but we get to see the terror actors in Hamas for who they truly are. And they can no longer play the victim card. I'm going to move over to Maria Corina Machado. I believe she awarded or bequeathed her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump in light of everything happening. This immense recognition of the struggle of all Venezuelans is an impetus to conclude our task, to conquer freedom. We are on the threshold of victory, and today more than now, we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, and the people of Latin America, and the democratic nations of the world as our main allies to achieve freedom and peace and democracy. Venezuela will be free. Lastly, just a quick poll I'm going to share from Breitbart. 60% of majority of liberals endorse violence to stop deportations. 60% of young liberals say it's acceptable to go beyond peaceful protests in response to immigration raids conducted by ICE, according to a survey by Signal. 42% of liberals say it was acceptable to go beyond peaceful protests, even if that meant breaking the law. This number jumps to 60% of liberals under the age of 30. Liberals are shockingly okay with breaking the law to go against government action they don't agree with, like ICE raids, said Signal president and pollster Brent Buchanan. Continued, one side of America's political spectrum, whether directly engaged in the behaviors or not, now openly accepts breaking laws if it means advancing their political agenda. Considering the justification of illegal immigration and insistence that it's not a criminal act if the act is desperate, this might not be such a surprise. Young liberals in opposition to enforcement is ironic because they are the biggest economic losers as legal and illegal migrants force down wages, workplace investment, spike housing costs, and push older American stock market values. American citizen breaks down in tears because she is now living in her car for the foreseeable future. She has a job, but rent prices are so out of control in America, you need 2.5 times the rent to qualify for an apartment. She has to live in her car. Illegal immigration, let's show more quickly. And fake refugees have ruined America. Rental prices are out of control and wages have now been pushed down for real Americans. Let's keep it moving. Overall, 25% of the 1,500 respondents told Signal that it's acceptable to go beyond peaceful protests. This is a new world that we're living in. 11% strongly agreed, as did 18% of all liberals. 34% of women under age 55 agreed, including 16% who strongly agree. 70% of respondents disagreed, including 55% who strongly disagreed. 14% of conservatives agreed, while 84% disagreed. Independents split 72% disagreed, 21% agreed. There was little difference between racial groups. The young liberal support for violence comes as increasingly apocalyptic rhetoric and claims from Democrats who were pushed out of power after Biden wrecked Americans' living standards by admitting at least 15 million legal and illegal immigrants during his 4-year stay. On October 15th, for example, Pritzker told Sirius XM, it is really far-fetched to consider that maybe what Trump is doing with the militarization of cities is getting people to see those military or people dressed in fatigues with automatic weapons and then saying in November or October of 2026, we're going to protect the ballots, we're going to protect you at polling places. So we're going to put these military soldiers or ICE officials in with automatic weapons outside your polling place. If they don't think that the election is going their way, they can claim fraud and say we're seizing those ballot boxes. ICE officers are facing Pritzker-backed mobs on the city streets as they try to enforce immigration law. And then it goes into some examples of what's happening in Chicago. You've seen these clips. ICE officials are facing similar mobs in Los Angeles and orchestrated hate in many other cities. And you've seen all of this. The mobs are backed by many federal Democrats who are threatening to expose ICE officers' identities, making them and their families vulnerable to emotional harassment and violent attacks. The mob are also spurred, excused, and welcomed by progressive media outlets. Goes into more examples. But you get the point. It's a new reality we're facing, where one political party is under the impression it's okay to terrorize. Another example on the global stage, Geert Wilder. This was the Dutch populist politician, basically the Dutch version of Trump. Campaign suspended due to jihad-inspired plot and assassination threats. And yet another example of how peaceful the left and hardline Sunni Salafi immigrants are. And in the wake of Charlie Kirk assassination from last month, Dutch populist Geert Wilders, who the media constantly dubs far right, has suspended his campaign for elections later this month due to ongoing threats on his life. Specifically, he was informed by authorities that he was potentially the target of a plot in Belgium to kill conservative politicians using drones carrying explosives. 3 men were arrested in Antwerp in the foiled attack believed to be primarily aimed at Belgium's Prime Minister Bert de Wever. The NCTV does not foresee any residual threat, but I have a bad feeling and I'm therefore suspending all my campaign activities for the time being. Police raids in Antwerp recovered a homemade bomb, shrapnel loads, and evidence of put together an explosive-laden drone. Wilder's outspoken stance against Islam as well as mass migration policies have actually resulted in some level of police protection and higher security going all the way back to 2004. Dutch Minister Voort van Oosten posted on X that he was ordered the Dutch Counter-Terrorism Office to do everything necessary to enable Mr. Wilders to resume his work as soon as he wishes. The founder of the Party for Freedom has attracted controversy and hate due to his outspokenness on Europe's migrant problem and the commentary like the following. Geert Wilders, Islam is truly evil. The so-called prophet Muhammad raped a young girl and gave slave girls to his henchmen. Islam is violence, hatred, and barbarism by nature. Is it compatible with freedom? It is incompatible with freedom. Do you agree? Wilder had previously canceled a planned radio debate after which he was notified directly by the threat of by Dutch intelligence. It does appear the plotter arrested in Belgium are Islamic radicals, given that Belgian prosecutors have described the intention of the suspects was to carry out a jihadi-inspired terrorist attack targeting politicians. So again, could always be worse here in the States. Thank God we haven't gotten that bad, at least not yet. Now, moving over quickly to X, just on the legal front quickly. Going to share this tab. Mortgage fraud is either really serious or not a big deal. It all depends on if it's Trump being charged or Letitia James. This is CNN, 2019 versus 2025.
These New York charges, residential mortgage fraud. These New York charges, residential mortgage fraud, among the most serious. So he's looking at 1 to 3 years minimum, 8 to 20.
Here we go.
These New York charges, residential mortgage fraud, among them, one of the most serious. So he's looking at 1 to 3 years minimum, 8 to 25 years maximum. These are huge ranges, but those would be inescapable, right? There's nothing a president can do to pardon on a state charge. James is the first Attorney General of New York to be indicted by the Justice Department, and it follows a nearly 6-month investigation into claims of mortgage fraud. Now, that is a charge the United States Justice Department rarely brings against individuals, but of course, James is not an ordinary individual. Trump considers her an enemy after she sued him in 2022, accusing Trump of lying about his real estate empire and the inflating the value of his properties. These New York charges.
BS. And remember, this is the same woman who ran on a campaign to quote unquote get Trump. Here they are again. No one is above the law. Biden, Pritzker, no one should be above the law. Klobuchar in the United States of America, no one is above the law. The United States was founded on the belief that no one is above the law. No one is above the law. Bowman, no one is above the law. Wilson, no one is above the law. Tish herself and Schumer, no one is above the law. And Harry Sisson, hey Donald, nobody's above the law in the United States. So what's the problem with going after Tish? All right, here we go. These people are defending Letitia James with the most insane arguments. Fusion Candelanian, proven CIA shill, is arguing that it's not that bad because her lie only cost her or saved her $19K. But in the same breath, he argues that mortgage applications are confusing, so it could have easily been a paperwork error. Sorry, Kay, but if I stole $19,000 from my employer and then claimed it was a paperwork error, I would go to jail. The more these hacks defend corruption, the more people will see them for who they truly are. Amen.
Now, this is a case about a property that James bought in 2023 that was not the one that everyone thought it would be, was not the subject of that referral from Bill Pulte. It was a different issue here, which is essentially they're alleging that she bought a home and she said it was going to be a second home and instead used it as a rental property. And so the difference in interest rate there was she would have qualified for a 3.8% interest rate, according to the indictment, and she got a 3% interest rate. And so what they're saying the crime here was, the ill-gotten gains, was just under $19,000. And they lay out the technical pieces of evidence in the documents. What the key issue, obviously, in this case is going to be, do they have evidence of criminal intent? Do they have evidence that she knowingly misrepresented to the banks, or was it just a paperwork error, or was it inadvertent, or did she or people associated with her not understand the rules here? All of those are possibilities. All of those are defenses. Anyone who's filled out mortgage documents knows this is a complex world. But look, this is serious. As you said, bank fraud carries a penalty of 30 years in prison. Not that a person convicted on a first offense would get that sentence, but it's an extremely serious use of the Justice Department to prosecute someone for what looks like a technical violation. And again, the ill-gotten gains alleged here, less than $19,000, under circumstances which we can all see are highly, highly questionable.
Again, so their days in the limelight are over. You have politicians who projected and went after Trump now being caught in their own hypocrisy, and a fictitious, libelous mainstream media trying to defend them. All whilst the party associated with leftism is endorsing violence, while the person they're against is actually creating world peace. What do you think? There's a huge narrative change happening. I'm glad to be a part of it, and it sounds like every day more and more people are waking up, because each and every single day, these fools and violent criminals really start to show their true hand. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, and check me out at ConservativeRap.com for more. Thanks and take care.